The only thing that we can know for sure is that we're going to continue having this debate. Judges retire. They have a mandatory retirement age. So if we had a different shuffle, then the answer could have been different. One judge away. One judge cast the tie-breaking vote on this very central question, which is whether judges can create their pure judicial law, which are not amendable, right? Even if everybody in the country, federal and provincial actors, decided they wanted to change something, this is pure judge-made law. And we are that close to bringing in pure judge-made law in this country.
So, Mark, same question to you. What do you think this decision means for the future and about whether it is settled about whether or not unwritten constitutional principles can be used to invalidate legislation?
Yeah, so I'd say two things. I think the first is that the decision reinforces what the Supreme Court has done recently when they're interpreting the Constitution. And that's to say that we're really focused on discovering what the text of the Constitution means. We aren't focused on what a judge's particular policy preferences are or what the judge wants the text to mean. We have to start with the text, and the majority makes that clear. The second thing I think, though, is, I agree with Joanna, the door is left slightly open to the use of unwritten principles. The majority says we can use them to gap fill legislation, as I mentioned earlier, even though they can't be used to invalidate it. Now, whether there's a difference here, who knows? In reality, it may be that unwritten principles are actually still used in arguments. But at least for now, we have a bit more guidance on when they can be used and when they can't be used.
So, Jacob, what is your opinion? What do you think the long-term impact of this case is going to be?
I completely agree with Joanna and Mark, and I think, the facts of this case are obviously unique, and I think it's unlikely that we'll have a similar factual scenario come up to the Supreme Court. The issues that are at the heart of this case, like unwritten principles, freedom of expression, and the role of municipalities, that debate is sure to continue. And I think especially with municipalities who have now been told by the Supreme Court that they're at the legislative mercy of provinces under the Constitution, and really confirm that, I think we're going to have more of a discussion on that. Municipalities and their influence continue to grow. For example, the City of Toronto's operating budget is more than a lot of provinces and territories across Canada. And I think that what impact that has on their role within the Constitution is going to continue. And whether that ultimately leads to, the people, talking to their legislative officials and seeking an amendment to the Constitution to include municipalities, who knows? But I do think that conversation is going to continue.
So, Jacob, Joanna, Mark, I obviously agree with most of you. We all have been involved to some degree in this issue. But to play devil's advocate briefly, Jacob, I'm going to throw this question to you. Some critics have said that this decision is bad for democracy. It undermined democracy at the city level. What's your response to that in about 30 seconds?
Well, I understand that critique. I think what the majority did here, which was really commit and emphasize the importance of the constitutional text, will actually be good for democracy and civil liberties in the long run. Because if you care about protecting civil liberties, you have to be disciplined about interpreting the Charter, interpreting the Constitution. Because the more that rights are clearly defined and you have clarity around that, the more likely that rights are going to be balanced and are going to be left to the legislative will or the people rather than, as Joanna mentioned, unelected judiciary.
Excellent response. Jacob, Joanna, Mark, I want to thank you all so much for coming on today to share your expertise. We've heard today about the recent decision by the Supreme Court to uphold Premier Doug Ford's move to shrink the size of Toronto City Council. Whatever you think of the politics around the move by Ford, which I personally think was poorly timed and potentially fueled by his own personal history with City Council, the fact is that it was within his authority to do, and the Supreme Court has held that. For me, the big takeaway in this case related to the role of unwritten constitutional principles in our system. While I'm happy with the result that unwritten principles can't be used to invalidate legislation, I'm deeply troubled by how close things got in this 5-4 decision. The issue is likely not settled for good. That's all for this week. I'm Christine Van Gyn. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, a freer Canada starts with you.